Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those who may not know, my name is Marlene Bruner. I'm the Senior Budget Manager here at the CCOC. And so what we're going to be talking about today is the funding request form that you may have seen go out in a statewide email. So we had the Budget Committee meet on the 9th, and at that meeting, they decided to come up with a holistic approach to how they would handle the budget this year going forward. And so they came up with their philosophical concept, and it broke the budget down into several steps. So we would start with everyone's current operational budget. And from that number, we would add on an amount if you were one of the 4 counties who would be receiving judges. First of all, we would add 3% across the board. Everyone would get a 3% increase. Then second step would be adding on if you were receiving a new judge this year. And so what we're referring to as step 3 or step 4 is a pot of money that would be available for all 67 clerks to come forward and request funding for. And so that's what this form came out of. And so if you have not seen those calculations, they're in the packet for the July 23rd Budget Committee meeting. That's a draft. It is absolutely positively not final. The Revenue Estimating Conference is set to meet next week, Wednesday. And at that meeting, they will determine how much money they're projecting for the clerks. And then after that meeting, we'll have a number that we can put back into the draft calculation and know where we're going to end up. We also won't know when the next Budget Committee meeting is until after that meeting. Our staff here is already scheduled to meet with Clerk Burt as soon as that meeting is over so that we can make those arrangements. So be on the lookout for a statewide email when that is set. And then we anticipate that the next most recent Budget Committee meeting will be a conference call to provide CCOC staff with direction regarding these numbers so that everyone can make their final determination about how much they need to ask for in these special requests. And so also at that conference call meeting will be the determination for criteria for review for this form, and then also the next in-person meeting and whether or not any type of deliberations will be required or if anything like that would be requested. So we really can't plan much further until we get through the REC meeting next week, Wednesday. So when the subject came up that they wanted this pot of money where clerks could come and ask for dollars, they wanted to make sure that the requests were very specific in nature. So what I did was I pulled from my years in the governor's office and the budget amendments that we did there and also for state agencies and pulled together this form. It's very similar to the form and the system that the state uses and requires. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen, which is the form. So the top section is the same standard section that we use on all of our CCOC forms. So you'll pick your county name from the drop-down, enter your contact name, and contact email. So for the request, you will need to tell us whether you're requesting FTEs with this, and then personnel dollars, operating dollars, or if there's any capital dollars. So the first section is called problem statement. And so this is where you would provide background information related to this funding request, and you need to be sure to include how this need developed. How do we get into this? Is it a result of years of underfunding? Is it because of a certain situation that happened? Is it the result of administrative order, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So provide all pertinent historical information related to how this problem developed. And then the second section is titled Request. So this is where you'd actually tell us what you are requesting. I am requesting X number of FTEs, X number of dollars for the purpose of, and then provide that information. And so that request should also identify how that problem will be solved if you were to receive this request. Third section is titled Fiscal Impact, and that's where you would tell us whether this is a one-time funding need, whether this would be a recurring need. If you looked at the calculations that were done and said, you know what, based on this calculation, I only need X amount of dollars to be at what I requested on my original submission. So that's what I'm asking for in this request, and that's that impact, is to just get me back up to what I requested to perform my statutory duties as clerk. That's what you would provide there for that tab, that section. And other considerations. This is the section where you provide any further information, maybe if you've done analysis already for a certain this particular issue, regarding the administrative order. If you had extra information related to that, you could supply that here. Also, when you
enter your access code or meeting number.
Let's see, I'm not sure who that is. Okay, but back to the form. When you
your attendee ID number, followed by pound.
You submit your request, you would submit them. Okay, that's better now. Go back to sharing my window. Okay. So when you submit your request, after filling out this information, you should submit it to our report at flccoc.org email, and you would also attach in that email any other documentation that's required to support your request. So a copy of the AO, a copy of any fiscal analysis you've performed, maybe it's a copy of the caseload related to needing more funding for the judge based more than what was originally allocated in the formula. Any of that type of information. And so at the last budget committee meeting, they determined that they wanted a due date of Friday, August 16th for these forms. But like I said, we won't know for sure the total number until after the REC meets on the 7th, and then after we have a budget committee meeting via conference call. So I'm anticipating that we would have that before the 16th so that we would have those final numbers that we would be able to publish so that you would know exactly where you fall in the calculation and then, you know, how much additional you may wish to request. So I will now open it up to any questions at this time. Any questions related to the content of the form, so or the problem statement or request? Any questions related to that?
Marlene, this is Nadia.
Hey, Nadia, how are you?
Good. Just for clarification purposes, is this form only needed for special funding requests, or are we needing to do this form in order to get our funding for the year?
Okay, so this is just for requests above the calculation. So if you look in the Budget Committee meeting packet for 723, the Budget Committee laid out their plan. So everyone would start at their operational budget. They would get a 3% across the board increase. Then if they were receiving new judges based on this most recent legislative session, they would get an additional amount there. And then another calculation was done based on your case counts. And those case counts were weighted. And so of the total dollars allocated to that pot of money, you received a portion of that total pot of dollars. And so then there's a total. And so you'll need to look at that total and see how far off of your original budget submission you are. And so then you will know how much to make your request for, if you want to do one at all, if, you know, all those variables. And so that's what this form is for. It's for that very last step in those equations. And the numbers that are in that packet are drafts because at the time, the REC was supposed to have met before that meeting, and then they postponed the meeting. So we just used the number that we thought was close, but we won't know that exact number until after the REC meets next week on the 7th.
Is it the meeting packet that says revised? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Are there any other questions? Okay, just to review again, if you're requesting any additional funds through this process, the form and all the attachments are due by Friday, August 16th to the reports at flccoc.org email. If you have questions in the interim, you can always call the office, ask for myself or for Jason. And like I said, be on the lookout because after that REC meeting, we will probably have some kind of communication going out statewide.
Okay, Marlene, this is Gwen.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking on your website, and I just want to make sure I look at the correct one. It says revised calendar year 2018-19 fiscal management measures status report. Is that the one you're wanting us to look at?
No, it's under the budget committee. If you go to the budget committee page and then scroll down to the bottom, it'll say July 23rd workshop and meeting packet.
Okay.
Yeah, and in that meeting packet is where the draft numbers are located. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well then that adjourns the training. And again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call or email us here at the office. Thank you.